Hello, Ryan.
What?
It's your job to do the recap this week.
I was gonna do employed person things.
But this is way more important.
You're a pencil sharpener. Okay! Hello, and welcome back. Today we will be discussing episode 36 of the Dicely campaign. Almost home. Starting off, we emerge from the teleportation portal courtesy of the very powerful divination wizard Philinori Plance, the character played by our guest, Nicholas Casali. We decide to pay a visit to the Arcanet schoolhouses to talk to Q and inform them of what transpired inside Cadway's house and workshop. We then use the sending stone given to us by the Learned Circle to contact them. We are received by one Altara Quillanthri, who is sufficiently done with our shit already. So we inform her about Cadway, and we learn through this sort of quick exchange of messages that Altara and the Learned Circle, therefore, are unfamiliar with Cadway Finewhistle, despite his didact ranking in the Arcanet Institute. So this sort of shows just how separate the two entities are. Speaking of the Arcanet, Charity Cozybug contacts Azaria through the use of sending to ask if we can give an update about the Cadway situation and if we're still in New Fugleby, and if so, where we're staying. So we spill the beans. Abe then gets a nifty upgrade to his axe. We then pay a visit to Pester Digitation, the very cleverly named prank store run by a very eccentric Sir Pester Sinfizz. So we buy a bunch of fun items from there, and then we head back to the Miner's Arms, the inn in which we're staying. Drac checks in with the group, and Elowin informs us that she is in fact not fine. She then informs us of what the Archdruid of the Enclave in the Smoking Gulf told her about her predicament. It was revealed to Elowin that the Stranger in Shadow and the Void are interconnected beings somehow, which means therefore that Azaria and Elowin are both afflicted with something from the Void. What this means is that solving their problems, at least with what we know currently, will result in at least the death of Azaria. Yeah. From there, Azaria, Drac, and Elowin speak on the morality of that situation when all of a sudden we are interrupted by Charity Cozybug, who's paying us a little visit. She is just teleported into New Fugleby. This is Elowin's first time meeting Charity. She informs us that her journey to Ganry to speak with the druids went well, and that Cap Calhoun is indeed a lot, which is factual information. And, most notably, that they have the beginnings of establishing a deal to trade the gems for resources. But Charity has come to talk to Azaria about how to sort of be respectful, how to make the deal beneficial for both sides, so that it can be a long and fruitful business transaction relationship. A neat little tidbit from this is that Cap Calhoun ended up upholding his end of the deal. Nice. Charity then presents us with a teleportation scroll, which is linked to our new keep, which I'm sure we're going to have to come up with a name for at some point. We also chat about the Cadway situation, and then Charity heads up to her room, and Abe follows. Abe and Charity end up chatting about the journal that Abe was lent by Charity to read about his potential past life as Pascalis the Brave. This conversation was very fun to watch. It's like two very old friends reuniting after such a very long time, but there's also hints that maybe there was something more to their relationship with how both Charity and Abe sort of feel after the discussion. I don't know. Anyways, Abe then goes and faceplants on his bed. Nell goes to bed to alleviate the exhaustion she's garnered over this past week. Elowin goes up to her room to sort of contemplate things and to sort of grapple with the unveiling of this horrible revelation to Azaria, their lifelong friend. So this leaves Gideon, Azaria, and Drac to have heavy conversations about what lies ahead. The Void. The thought that magic could be the antithesis to the Void, being a force of creation versus a force of destruction. Azaria informs Drac and Gideon of their glimpse into the abyss of what lies in their afterlife. We then quickly chat about the deck of many things and how everyone's feeling about it. This conversation was awesome. Also, I'm glad that Gideon finally got to have some really nice chats with Azaria and Drac, as I feel like we've sort of been operating together but not really getting to know one another. But it's starting, the bridges are forming. Azaria goes to bed, and then you'd think that would be the end of the insightful conversations for the evening, but you would be sorely mistaken. Drac had other plans. Before I continue, I need to just quickly say, I've said it 1,000 times, I'm gonna say it again. This whole cast is amazing. I'm gonna shout out Anthony. He had amazing roleplay this entire campaign. I'm gonna give my boy some love. He really shined here in this discussion about the meaning and importance of being in a pack. the worth of redemption, the kind of man that Gideon is, and that Gideon, despite his past, is still worthy of love, care, and being kept safe. Damn. Then the group finally all goes to bed. Next morning, the group all gets up and wishes Abe a happy Dawn Star Day. Dawn Star Day is the day that all the Starborn were, well, born. Nell then draws a picture of what she saw Abe looking like while she was affected by the true seeing spell, courtesy of, once again, Philanor Plants. Abe is sort of stunned by this revelation. This was then followed by a very chaotic morning, courtesy of Nell's wild magic, introducing the concept of 3 gnomes in a trench coat. The best and most powerful party member of the Seekers of Sicramund, who's been there since day 1. In fact, I believe they were the member who started this group. They've been there for several years. In fact, I believe it was them who pulled the very strings that made the party unite in the first place. It all makes sense now. Moving forward, the party packs up and heads on the road. The horses take well to the road, being well fed, well rested, and potentially being blessed by Equin Bach, the Lord of Horses, the god that Gideon occasionally pays tribute to. Let it be said, always tip your horse god. Along the road, we find some people traveling the direction opposite us, and they inform us that there's a large gathering going on in Balesville. Yep. Gideon asks Drac to send a message to his parents and to his friend Montgomery, aka Monty, to inform them of this information and to ask them to get somewhere safe. Gideon's parents seem completely undisturbed by the fact that there's something going on in Balesville, which just further cements in Gideon's mind that they are just so beyond what he remembers his parents being. On the other hand, Monty seems like he's okay to leave Balesville, and he seems very hesitant to trust us, which is just the best news. I'm just hoping that he is not involved in some way with this cult or whatever the hell's going on in Balesville. We tell Monty to meet us in Timberstead, which is a town east of Balesville. Abe then gets Elwyn to identify the urn full of the hero's ashes that we've had since geez, how long have we had those? A long time! Unfortunately, the identify spell does not yield any information about the identity of the ashes, but it does inform us that this urn has been enchanted with some sort of preserving magic, which is interesting. We then identify the large carpet that was taken from Cadway's lair, and it's a portable hole. Nice. Nell is now stressing about what lies ahead of her, being one day out from Varmhall village. Gideon then ends up checking in with Nell and chatting with her about her being not a coward and being a leader and her needing to believe in herself. And this was sort of the continuation of the conversation that Nell and Gideon were having in the Druid Enclave. Nell is a leader that Gideon believes in, and he wanted her to know that. Azari then talks to Drac about sending a message to their family. As we are approaching their home, which is pretty close to Nell's, they describe them in great detail so Drac can fire a message away, and the message lands. And we learn from Azaria's sister Loreleth that they've been given sort of a house while they stay in this little area here, this little grove that Azaria's mother, this grand tree, disappeared from. So that's a reunion that's going to be happening soon, guaranteed. Exciting, right? We then discover that the house they were given to stay in is in Varmhall village, meaning that Varmhall village was built over the grove that once contained Azaria's mother. Fuck. We then arrive in Varmhall, and we're greeted by the villagers as well as Finn, Nell's brother, who's been sort of trying his best to take care of, well, the people who are frozen in Nell's family, which is basically everyone except her brother and I believe her auntie. We approach this large plateau that rests in the middle of the village, upon which is the building in which Nell's family is contained. We see that the door has been nailed shut. Finn, with very quick thinking, did it to make sure that nobody who was frozen, well, slowed, I should say, they weren't frozen, slowed in time, didn't make their way outside, and without really understanding what and how they're perceiving the world as in their slowed state, Finn didn't want to risk breaking their sanity by seeing the days pass in rapid succession, which is completely fair. Nell decides that she's going to do this. She's going to do it now. She's going to try. The group then encourages Nell and empowers her with some magic that will aid her in confronting this fear. Give it her best shot to dispel this magic. Nell enters the building and is met with a grim tableau of her family members all in shock and being scared. And she approaches them and looks at them longingly and lets the scene sort of wash over her. Nell begins to read the scroll and to find the power and to let it flow through her. And she successfully casts the spell. And it works. She managed to cast a spell despite it being above her ability to cast. That was where the dice roll was going to come in. But she did it. The magic is dispelled, and her family is free. It took us 36 sessions, but we did it. Nell begins to reunite with her family, and the episode ends. This session was amazing. I love this game, and I love this group. I highly suggest you give this episode a watch. There was just so much good roleplay. With all that said, that is all I have for you today, friendos. I hope you are staying happy, healthy, and kind, and that you are always remembering to play dicely.